for 1 year and a half now.
Okay.
I started in my home country in Geneva, Switzerland, and I traveled through the Middle East, Central Asia, Mongolia, China, Southeast Asia, Peninsula Malaysia, and now I'm on Borneo. And my project is to take about 5 years to go around the world. I have traveled so far approximately almost 50,000 kilometers, and I will now move to Kalimantan. Then my plan is to take a few months to visit Indonesia. Be stopping in Sulawesi, Lombok, Bali, Java, Sumatra, and towards the end of the year I would be shipping the truck to Australia. Since I'm a little child, I was growing up on the island of Madagascar, and I was traveling a lot with my parents. Later on in my adult life, I traveled a lot in Africa where I lived for many, many years. So I just learned to enjoy discovering new places, new people, new countries, crossing deserts, mountains, etc. And I knew when I would retire, I thought a good project would be to get a vehicle where I can go on a long journey. And slowly I decided this is what I want to do. So I bought this vehicle 10 years ago. And for 10 years I've been fixing it, preparing it. And I left in February of last year on this big trip around the world. The truck is made in France. It used to be a French army truck. I studied for MBA and I was a manager of many companies.
Okay.
I'm also a water engineer specializing in water filtering, pressuring, pumping, distributing water. I worked many years in what we call the development sector and humanitarian sector. Worked for the Red Cross in Africa, putting water supplies after a civil war in Congo, for example.
What are the challenges that you face, traveling?
Compared to some overlanding trips which I did 30, 40 years ago, it has become much easier because now we have internet, we have applications that make life so easy to travel. So on one hand, it's very easy to travel currently. To answer your question, some of the challenges are as I enter a country, obviously I look what are the sites, what are the beautiful places I should visit, and there are too many of them. So it's a question of selecting a few places which are on some sort of logical way.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I cannot go to see all the beautiful places. For example, in Sarawak, I would like to go to more parks. I have been in Mulu Park, Gunung Mulu Park. I was at the Nia Park. I will go now near Kuching. I will see more national parks. But what is also good is meeting people as I travel. And part of the fun is because I'm not a good cook and I don't like to cook, so part of the fun is stopping on the way at the local eating places and sharing and talking to people a bit and meeting people as I travel. In all those countries I've traveled, there are good people all over, and it's good for the heart to realize that there are lots and lots of good people. If you listen to the news, you see all the bad things in one country, another, and this is happening. But there are lots of good, helpful people. Some of the challenges are to double check on the visas as I move along.
Okay.
For example, when I started my trip, I only had the visa for Iran, prepared before when I was in Switzerland. And then in Iran, I get the visa for the next country, Turkmenistan. and the next country, Uzbekistan.
Okay.
And as I travel, I get the visas for the next countries. For example, in the next few days here in Kuching, I will go to the Indonesian consulate
Yeah.
and get the visa for Indonesia. So you need, it's not really a worry, but you need to keep checking, keep working on visas. You also need to look a bit at the weather. You want, for example, I had to get out of Mongolia before the cold winter came. So you also need to look at the weather patterns and to avoid the heavy rainy season or to avoid very hot seasons. So you try to time yourself to avoid the bad seasons. Otherwise, to get from point A to point B, nowadays the GPS makes life so easy, so that's not a challenge. Regarding the vehicle, I must make sure that it's in good order. So for example, here I'm at a shop and I will do some rotation of tires to make sure that they're in good shape. Oil change, so you need to look at the vehicle and make sure it stays in good condition. Also, a vehicle is mechanical, and when you drive 50,000 kilometers, sooner or later you have small mishaps happening. For example, in Kazakhstan I had a problem with my clutch, so I had to get some spare parts flown in from Europe to Ulaanbaatar. And fortunately I know how to drive without a clutch, so I could drive 3,000 kilometers without a clutch. Very difficult, but managed. And when I was in Ulaanbaatar, I got the parts, fitted the parts, and then it was okay. A small challenge, but it's not a challenge, a small part of traveling is to find a place to sleep every night. Either I'm on a long journey between two cities or two towns, so I will try to get off the main road, find a quiet place, and because I can sleep and I can cook if needed in my camper van, I will sleep over there. Especially here in Southeast Asia where it is very hot, if I need to open all the doors and windows to be not so hot because I have no AC.
Oh, okay.
So when I'm in a city, I cannot keep the doors open all night to too many people. So it's also part of the fun. I look for a hostel where there are other travelers, and it doesn't cost much. So I go to hostels where I find other travelers, and sometimes I stay in a private room, sometimes I sleep in a dormitory with other travelers. And it's also fun to talk and to meet other travelers, so we exchange ideas, where have you been, what is nice to see. So it's not a problem, but finding a place for every night is a small task. It's you have to sort of look at the long term and then bring it to the short term. For example, last year, I knew I had to get out of Mongolia before October because it would be too cold, too much snow and everything. So you cut the time before that and you know you have maybe 4 weeks for one country, 3 weeks for another country, 4 weeks for the next country. Now looking for the future, for example, I'm planning to stay about 4 months, maybe 5 months on many islands of Indonesia. But I need to get to the south of Australia during the summer before it's too hot or too cold. So I would like to arrive in Australia, in the south of Australia, maybe Adelaide, January. And then when it gets not so hot in the north of Australia, for example, so I will move north to Cairns later in June, July, when it is the good season. So you look at the weather forecast and time yourself.
Then, so from Australia, you're moving on to New Zealand, I presume?
What I will do is, my aim is to ship the car from Australia to South America,
Ah, okay.
because My next objective is South America,
Right.
which I have never been to. So I will spend maybe 1.5 years in South America. And while the truck is being shipped to South America, I will fly to New Zealand, rent a camper van, and visit New Zealand with a camper van.
Okay. Your last pit stop would be where? Be Switzerland?
So after South America, I have to cross to Panama again and visit Central America, cross then to North America and Alaska. My idea is to go from the bottom of South America, a place called Ushuaia,
Okay.
to Prudhoe Bay in Alaska and drive the whole Alaskan highway. And afterwards cross Canada to a town called Halifax, which is a big harbor, and ship my truck back to Europe down the road. If I stay in good health, that's my main objective.
How old are you now?
I started last year when I was 66. Retirement age in Switzerland is 65. And so now I'm 67.
Is this your first time in Sarawak by any chance? Is it your
Yes,
first-
I've traveled a lot before on the African continent, in Europe, on the North American continent, and also part of the Middle East. But I had never been to either Central Asia, Mongolia, Southeast Asia, Borneo, Sarawak. No, so it's my first time. Very nice people everywhere I stop. Easy, no problems, no issue with security. So it's a pleasure to be in Malaysia, pleasure to be in Sabah, Sarawak now. Was pleased to see is the way various ethnic groups cohabit nicely. So you see different groups of people, but they're all Malaysians, and we go forward. You can be from a different ethnic origin, you can have one country and live peacefully together.
Yeah.
And I think Malaysia is doing a good job in that respect, and congratulations to all of you here.
Thank you.
So I can get things and make my coffee in the morning or my
Right.
so it's very simple, quickly up and down. Here, and I have my camping table, camping chairs. So in a few minutes, I can get my table, my chairs, and be happy. Because I wanted a four-wheel drive off-road vehicle, which can go in the desert, which can go anywhere. The bad part is it is a bit high. But if you're fit, you can climb in, so you put your feet here, and then you can get up. Basically, I have a small table here, and maybe 3 people can be sitting and having tea or coffee or something. You can see in the back right now is a single bed because for the time being I'm traveling alone.
Okay.
If I have a friend coming, I can pull the bed and put the other mattress to make a double bed. And sometime in the past I had a friend coming for some time, but now I'm traveling alone and hopefully later maybe somebody will come. Here I have sort of like cupboards where I can put my clothes. Here I can put different things. Oops.
You designed this all by yourself?
I designed and I made it myself.
Oh, you made it yourself as well? Wow.
Everything is homemade, handmade.
Oh, okay.
Here I have more storage space for little things. This is very handy chemical toilet.
Okay.
So you can, there's a cassette you can remove from the outside of the car. And sorry, here, this can be a fridge, but I'm not using it now because everywhere I stop there is cold drinks. It's simple to have, so I don't really need it now. Under the seat I have some water tanks.
Okay.
And I also made some doors so I can open this door and go. If there's an emergency, I'm sleeping, something happens, I want to go. So I can go and start the car and drive without going out.
This is your kitchen?
This can be a kitchen here,
Oh, okay.
but it takes a bit of time to get started. It's using diesel fuel. If not, I also use a small gas stove here to,
Wow.
Okay.
to cook. Yeah. This roof was only here. And I made it taller because I wanted it to be standing. So the roof was like this before. Yeah, like here.
Okay.
So it was a lot of work to make it taller.
Okay.
And then designing and creating everything took many years. The back doors, and here I open this curtain and I open the back door so I have ventilation.
Oh, so this part has no air condition at all, right? But your
No
air.
AC there, no AC here.
Oh. Okay.
And because the engine is not so powerful, I leave it as it is.
Did you give yourself a budget for this five-year trip?
Yes and no. Good question. Some countries are more expensive than others. For example, crossing China was very expensive because in China, if you go with a car, you need to have a guide, do all sorts of paperwork to get a Chinese driver's license, a Chinese number plate. So you need to pay the tourist company a lot of money, then the hotels. So China was really exploding my budget. Thanks goodness, Malaysia is good on my budget. Thailand, Cambodia, Laos is good on my budget. So, and sometimes you have shipping. So shipping will be expensive. I can say on the average, my budget could be something like $1,500 per month.
Dollars is in American.
1,005 American US dollars.
Okay.
Approximately, sometimes more, not less than that. So basically, sort of between 1,500, sometimes $2,000 per month. Crossing China was more than that.
Oh. How much did you spend for China?
$6,000.
That's a lot.
Very
Yeah.
expensive.
Okay.
And again, when I will ship from Jakarta to Australia, that will be most likely minimum $4,000.
Wow, that's expensive. Yeah. There's a language barrier. Do you face that when you go to, like, for example, in China, especially? Then...
Okay, in China it was easy because we had a guide, and the guide, of course, was translating.
How did you find the guide?
Before you enter China, before you get your Chinese visa, you must absolutely get in touch with an official, authorized travel agency in China. You can find those on internet. So I contacted about 4 companies to get a good price. And once one company was offering a good price, you talk together which way you want to go, how many days. The longer you stay together, the more expensive it comes. So I decided to go for 24 days, and there's about approximately 5,000 kilometers crossing China. And to make it a bit cheaper, we find other tourists. So we were in fact 3 cars, one from Germany, one from France, and myself, crossing China together with one guide.
Oh, okay.
And so that's the way it works in China. And then once you have the tourist company preparing all the outline, with this document you can go to the Chinese embassy, and with it they will give you the visa.
Right.
If you don't have this, they will not give you a visa.
Okay. Yeah, last question. Of the countries you visited so far, which one do you is most memorable for you?
Yes, good question. I cannot only say one, I will give you 3.
Okay.
Obviously Sarawak, obviously Malaysia is very nice. But outstanding, I would say, was Oman.
Oman, oh.
Now, from Iran, I took a ferry to the Emirates, and Emirates to Oman. And Oman is really exceptional because you have deserts, beautiful mountains, the sea, the people are nice, the infrastructure of Oman is good. Unlike the Emirates, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and so forth, where there is too much money. No, there is, and they just throw money everywhere. In Dubai, in Oman, there is enough money for infrastructure. The roads are good, so the people are happy. Very friendly people. So Oman was really nice. Iran was also very nice. You have a very old culture. People have been living there with thousands of years, a tradition, beautiful architecture. The people are very friendly. The Iranians know that they have a bad reputation because of the international sanctions and so forth, so they really make us welcome when we go there. And also you have deserts, the sea, mountains, snow, etc. So that was nice. And the last part, which was fantastic, was in Central Asia, in Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, up in the mountains. There is a road called the Pamir Highway, and this is very, very beautiful.
Oh, okay. All right then. Okay.